Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the program that looks at Israel. We look behind the news, we look at the news, we do features. And today in the program, we're doing a special Israel First update, giving you some background as to what's happening in the land, telling you about some guests who are coming into the studio. Very exciting. New guests coming up for the new season, and we've also got a little bit about what we do and how you can help us. And Nathalie's also going to be talking a bit, I don't know, is it going to be about Jerusalem, because you've got your book, so a very exciting program. In the news today, and this is as we come into the studio, there was the historic announcement by President Trump regarding the status of Jerusalem. And it said, the Jerusalem Post said, in a historic move, US President Trump recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Really an amazing event.
Which is very normal for the Jewish people, because I remember Yehuda Glick was saying, but us, we don't need to have that. We know it because we are praying, looking towards Jerusalem all around the world. You know, they will always put the synagogue, and even when they pray themselves, they will turn towards Jerusalem. So everything, and for them all, in all their prayers, Jerusalem is very important.
And it's very interesting, Nathalie, and I know that you're wondering why on earth, when the Jewish people obviously recognize their own capital city, most of them, why on earth is it so important what other people think? Well, it's very important, and up until now, the embassies have been all of the world's embassies have been located in Tel Aviv. They were moved. They were originally in Jerusalem and were moved out. And President Trump said, today we finally acknowledge the obvious fact that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. There is nothing more. This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. In other words, the government's here. The government offices are here, the heads of state, you know, the Prime Minister, the President, the heads of state of Israel are located in Jerusalem. And it's amazing, you know, when I think about that we can come to you today from the capital city of Jerusalem, the capital city of Israel, that we can come to bring you the Israel First television program. President Trump went on to say it was also the right thing to do. It's something that has to be done. This is why, consistent with the Jerusalem Embassy Act, I'm also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The announcement follows President Trump's campaign pledges to move the embassy to Jerusalem, a proposal backed by Jewish and evangelical, this is amazing in the news that they say this, backed by Jewish and evangelical Christian supporters. And it's just absolutely an amazing historic event. And so this year has been filled, Nathalie, with so many events. And Jerusalem.
And this is the 50 years.
The 50th anniversary
of Jerusalem. Because we speak about the 70 years of Israel, which is coming next year. But this year, it was 1967 that Jerusalem was reunited. And so for President Trump to say now we are moving our embassy, obviously they're not going it right now, but they are making the decision. And not only that, but recognizing Israel as the capital of Israel.
Jerusalem.
Sorry.
Recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Sorry, yes. And this is something, like you say, historic.
It's historic, and I think you'll be watching and you'll think, well, this is so exciting, and what an opportunity to be in the land, and you know, it's because of your support, and we're going to be talking a bit about that in the program, how you can get involved. It's because of your support that we're able to bring you historic news, and I know that many of you are interested in Israel. You're watching current events in Israel, and it's interesting, you know, because it's interesting, the world might not be so keen on the embassy. But
some countries are not happy, but some others, because
some are happy.
America is doing it, there is going to have also another move for other countries.
And,
so it's interesting.
And it's interesting to see what the Israeli Prime Minister has to say. And he did a video about the event saying Prime Minister Netanyahu's, it was his response to President Trump's statement, and Prime Minister Netanyahu said, "We are profoundly grateful to the President for his courageous and just decision." This is a historic day. It's Netanyahu recognizes what's happening. It's been the capital of Israel for nearly 70 years. Jerusalem has been the focus of our hopes, our dreams, and our prayers for 3 millennia. Jerusalem has been the capital of the Jewish people for 3,000 years. In other words, it's being restored, really, rather than being recognized. It's been recognized, but it's being restored into its rightful place. It was here that our temples stood, our kings ruled, and our prophets preached. From every corner of the earth, our people yearn to return to Jerusalem, to touch its golden stones, to walk in its hallowed streets. And what an amazing privilege it is to be in this place. And, you know, from a biblical perspective, the city of God and the place He chose, and
city of truth,
and we've had guests, and I know that you're going to come on to that in a minute. And so this is such an awesome pronouncement by President Trump, and Netanyahu goes on to say, "We're profoundly grateful to the President, and we're looking forward to the preparation of the opening of the United States Embassy." And it's absolutely wonderful news. But at the same time, there is people, particularly on the Palestinian side, who are not going to be happy. So it reminds me, and I was talking to Nathalie about this last night. It reminds me of when they declared Israel as a state. Very exciting news. Christians all over the world were looking at their Bible, the fulfillment of prophecy. There were people having there were meetings even called. Christian leaders were calling for meetings because they could see that that God was doing something amazing in the world. So as these news events were coming and being transmitted around the world, and what a day we live in, that it's almost instant. We could watch live President Trump's announcements and talking about how Israel feels. Sometimes Israel feels as a nation alone. This is from the Jerusalem Post front lines, and it says, "A nation that dwells alone." In other words, that Israel sometimes feels, Nathalie, as a nation that is by itself, that is having to fight its own battles, that it hasn't got anybody who is standing with it. And, you know.
You're right, but at the same time, and we're speaking with Rabbi Waliki, I think, it was like Israel has to be the light of the nations, but at the same time they have to fulfill the commandments, so they have to dwell alone. So there is this two thing of they are particular people that they have to keep who they are and the commandments, but at the same time they have to be a light to the nations and be daring to go around, which is when you say that, is like what's happening with Netanyahu. Netanyahu is really going out in different countries. He's really doing an amazing work, really, internationally. I can't remember any other prime minister of Israel doing so much outside of Israel. And not only that, the people love him because he's initiating a lot of new things and he's daring to do these things.
And if you're watching in South America, he's been over this year too, to South America, visiting different countries there for the first time. A sitting prime minister has been to South America. Also Africa, he's doing a lot of work into Africa, and I think you've got something on that, haven't you now?
I have something, but you know what? When you were speaking about Jerusalem, I was reading these beautiful books, Jerusalem, The Eyes of the Universe. I don't know if people can still find this book.
If you can, it's worth its weight in gold.
It's little, but is a mine of treasure. And the great thing, he's speaking not about Jerusalem now, but he speaks also how it was. And it was also a divided Jerusalem. I didn't know that. There was a side which was for the Hittites and another side for the Philistine. And King David reunited fight for Jerusalem to be united. So you see, it's not a new story. It has been like that, but when it's united, it's very important. And And I find also in this book, I was reading something, and it's beautiful, and I will tell you. It's like the focal point of Jewish civilization was to develop relationship with the Lord, with God. Okay, and this required a city. And if you think, Mart, like in Genesis, it was a garden, but when you arrive to Revelation, you have a city. So God has given us the responsibility to say, now I give you the world, I give you tools, I give you commandments, and this is a garden, but at the end, I want you to build a structure, and it will be a city. And if you notice, every city is where civilization are growing. It's not in villages, it's not in the countryside, it's where people gather together. And I find something very beautiful, which was saying, so Jerusalem will be a place where Jews and mankind gather to exchange ideas and develop civilization, enhancing this relationship. So when you see what's happening internationally, it's part of God's plan that Jerusalem is a light for the nations. Now, another thing also about that is like Ir, which means city. We say Ir David, the city of David, which is also Jerusalem, is another name. There is 70 names. Do you know that for Jerusalem? Like she has different names, city of David, the city of truth, the city of shalom, of peace, and many others. But Ir, so is the name for city, who comes from a verb which is ur, and the verb is to awaken. So again, when people come in Jerusalem, and so many people are saying that they are awakened, is the soul of the world. Jerusalem is the soul of the world. So when you see Trump daring and be courageous to say, okay, we know that it is that, but we haven't recognized it as the world, as all the many nations don't recognize it anymore. And now he said, it's time for us to do it. And he's courageous, and I think that, as we say, is like his story in front of our eyes. So it's quite exciting.
But it's still, you know, to get to this stage, there is things they have to go through. And, you know, one of the things we like to do on the Israel First Update is to bring you news, and to bring you, you know, some news from, to give you a newspaper review. And this is the Jerusalem Post, a recent Jerusalem Post. And just look at the headlines on that. It says, on this side, it says, they said they were going to kill us, talking about Jewish people who were attacked by Palestinian terrorists in the mountains of Samaria. Then it says,
so young people who are hiking.
Who are hiking and attacked. This side of the newspaper, it's got Israel hits terrorist targets in Gaza Strip after mortar barrage, and then just on the same, you know, in the same page, it says Israeli man stabbed to death during terror attack in Arad. And so, you know, it's really things that
it was a soldier.
Right, there was terrorism that is happening still in Israel, and it says, the Jerusalem Post says, recently reported that an Israeli man was stabbed to death in a terror attack in the southern Israeli city of Arad. Paramedics received a call that a 20-year-old man had been stabbed and severely wounded at a bus stop outside a shopping centre. They carried out life-saving medical treatment but were unable to resuscitate him. The man was named as Sergeant Ron Yitzhak Koka, an Israeli soldier from Tel Aviv. Israeli security forces have arrested two Bedouin Arabs, residents of the Negev, on suspicion of involvement in murder. The Arab suspects reportedly admitted to the murder and disclosed information that led authorities to recover the soldier's weapon, which the suspect stole after killing him. And this is a terrible thing that's happened. And you know, we had a spate in Israel of knife attacks, of terror attacks from Palestinian Arabs, and this is a really terrible reminder of that and the continuation of that. But we're saying this for you to get a full picture that whilst there's some fantastic news, great news that's happening, there is also things that Israel has to go through.
And like right now, even the police in Jerusalem and even the IDF, because of what Trump has said, the president of America, they have to be ready also, because the Palestinians said that they wanted 3 days of rage. But this is part of the interesting thing is what happened also in 1948. They just declared the state of Israel is reborn, and suddenly they were in war. They were attacked. But they are still here. And I find a beautiful, again in the book, I was looking yesterday and digging in it, and there was a beautiful verse in 2 Kings 19:34, and this is what God is saying: "And I will protect this city, and I will save it for my own sake, and for David my servant's sake." So, which is interesting, because he said for his sake, but also for David's sake, because he was the first king who united the city. And God knows, and this is a thing that we need to know, that Jerusalem is the soul of the world. And it's because of that. He said, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It's not written, pray for the peace of New York or Paris or London. No, it's Jerusalem, because Jerusalem has something so special, and we need to know all these things. It's because we know sometimes, we feel it inside. But when you put words on the feeling that you have, it makes you, yes, what we are doing is right. And like, interesting enough, all the embassies are still out of Jerusalem, usually in Tel Aviv, but there is one who is in Jerusalem, which is a Christian embassy, which is because the Christian, when they saw all the other embassies going out, said, we need to stay and we need to have an embassy here if all the other embassies are going. So I think it's very important. I think many Christians are so happy. And again, Netanyahu was saying that. He said, you are our best friends. We know that we're not by ourselves, because Christians know that Jerusalem is the center of the world.
And it's amazing that we can come from Jerusalem into your home to tell you what's happening. And not just that, as well as the program, you can also go to the website. We have a lot of information on the website. And if you'd like to help us and support us, there's information how you can do that. There's also the Facebook page. We try to do a news story every day.
You are doing a very good job for that.
So we try and every day we try and update you as to what's happening in Israel. So you can subscribe to the Facebook page. There's also a subscription button. In other words, you can receive our email where we give news from Israel, some things that we're doing behind the scenes, and you can become involved. And there's a lot of ways you can help us. There's also YouTube. We try to put the programs as best we can onto YouTube, so you can catch up with programs and see them and let your friends know about what's happening. But all of this, I was coming to this, that all of this does cost money, and it is part of the work here. But it's a way that you can become involved, and you're watching today, and you know that you'd like to help Israel, to be involved, to help media, to help Christian programs coming from bringing news and interviews from Israel. And we need your support, because there's projects we'd like to do, increasing the technical facilities of the studio and behind the scenes in the editing room. And you can make a gift towards the program. You can do that by PayPal. You can also do that by your bank, and all the information is on the fundraising, the support button or the donate button on the website. And you can also get a direct debit form, because I know some people like that, Nathalie. We'll send you a direct debit form in the post, and that's another way you can fill that in and or we'll email it to you. And we've got an address, so you can write to us. You might be saying, well, I'm not, somebody who's an expert, but just write to us and we'll send you all the information how you can help. And there's all sorts of different ways. Now, one of the things we've done, or one of the things that's available on the website, is the book that Nathalie's written, and it's called The Beauty of the Hebrew Language. And it's a book, it's the Hebrew letters and their meanings, and it's really a very important book for you to be able to start to understand Hebrew. And it's done in in a simple way. It's not a complex book, because I know some of you are saying, well, Martin, I find, English difficult, never mind Hebrew. And this is a book where you can read through it slowly. It's got illustrations about the letters and insights that Nathalie's done.
It.
And you can write to us, and you can order that from the website. And if you'd like to have further details how you can get it, just email us and we'll tell you all the ways you can to buy the book.
Yeah. And very soon we will have it in French. So you will be, for all the people who speak French, you will be able to have it in French. It's packed of the beauty of the Hebrew language, of the letters. I explain the letters, but also we give you principle of how to read the Bible, and how the Hebrew language has nuggets for us to understand God more and bring our relationship with Him much closer. So it's wonderful.
And if you'd like to become involved in that, that's another project. If you'd like to help support that, that's going to enable Nathalie's book, The Beauty of the Hebrew Language, to be published in French. It's a big project, but if you'd like to be involved and send a gift, we can have gifts. You can send $10 or $100 or £10 or £100, which will specifically be for the book. And if you could write to us and let us know that you'd like this for the French book, that you'd like to sow a seed that will enable us to be able to publish the book in French. It's going to be such an important project. We will send you a copy when we get them to thank you of the French book. And you imagine the lives you're changing, because it's going into people's lives, into people's homes, that they're able to read this amazing book, The Beauty of the Hebrew Language, in French.
Because it's not just like reading the book, it's making your way of reading the Bible in a different way and understand the Hebraic way of looking at things. So it's very important.
And you can keep in touch with us. You can write to us and let us know that you'd like to have the book, have a copy of the book. And as I say, if you'd like to have a copy of the English one, then do write to us. We will get that to you as quickly as we can. Now, one of the interesting things is we were talking about the different things, and we love to do a newspaper review. And this is the Jerusalem Post again, and it's talking about the Aharon Barak is saying if the Prime Minister is indicted, he has to resign on this side of the page. And then on the other side of the page it says, Hartavelli insults US jury, then apologizes under pressure. And the thing is that there's so much criticism of politicians, and a lot of the time, I'm not saying it's always unjust, but a lot of the time it's unfair.
Because it's a leftist media in Israel, and not a lot of people know that. The media is really fighting, because the government is more right-wing, so they are fighting, but he's part of the thing. But the government is doing, Netanyahu is doing so many things outside of the country, and like we're saying, I have a beautiful article, maybe, I don't know if I have the time, just to say quickly, Kenya inaugurated the new president, okay? And there was somebody from the Western country who was there, and it was Netanyahu. There was no other president over there or really head of government. So this is interesting. And
they're going to, one of the amazing things is they're going to be opening an embassy, I understand, in Rwanda. That was one of the things he went. Yes, he talked to the, I think it was the president of Rwanda, and said that we're going to open an embassy there. So great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Wonderful to be with you today. We are looking again at the verse in Genesis 1:1, the first verse in the Bible. And we looked at it for the beginning when we were speaking about at the beginning God created, which is Bereshit bara Elohim. But this time we are going to look at the other side of the verse, which is about the heavens and the earth. And so it's like Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashamaim ve'et haaretz. So Shamaim is the heavens and haaretz is the earth. Now in Hebrew, Hashamaim can be also the sky, okay? But when you see the name Shamaim, it's like two words. Sham means there like far away, and Maim water. Or we can look also, there is a name, Akkadian word, and which means Sham as the sky. So in the sky, oh, there is water. I don't see water, but you remember in Genesis 1:6, God is speaking in the word about that he created the firmament and he divided the waters from the waters. So Ma'im is water, so we can see that there is water in the sky. I just let you ponder on it and how it works. Now, when you look also at the name Shemesh, which is the sun, Shemesh is again two names put together. Shem or Sham, because sometimes the pronunciation can be just a bit different. Sham means there, as we saw for Shamayim, and Shemesh means there or in the sky. There is Esh, and you remember what is Esh? Is fire. And it's true, the sun for us is like the fire in the sky who keep us nice and warm. Isn't it amazing that in Hebrew you can really see the quality of what is the object, even in the name. Now, we are going to say again together the first verse in Genesis 1:1. So we are learning together to say things in Hebrew from the Bible. We say it again. Bereshit, which is at the beginning. Bara Elohim, God created. Et Hashamayim, which is the sky, the heavens. Ve'et, and haaretz, the earth. So we say it again nicely together. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. That's it. We did it again today. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this Israel First update. Great to have you with us. Don't forget you can email us at info@israelfirst.org. Visit the website www.israelfirst.org. And remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.